guess that'll work. All right. What did a day in your MOS look like?
My MOS, when the Marine Corps, my MOS was 0311, and all that is in the Marine Corps is grunt, infantry, and they call it the same thing in the Army. They would just call it infantry, and it is infantry in the Marine Corps. We just call it being a grunt. I mean, you're the Marine that's basically out in the bush, wherever you're working at. I don't care if it's Vietnam or Iraq, Afghanistan. You're the one that's out in the bush, out on the ground. You know, you're not in artillery, you're not in aviation or anything else.
Were there any instances of bravery or courage that you witnessed while you were in the service?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, in Vietnam, like I said, there were some quiet times, very few. You get caught in an ambush, you know, that happened. We had some machine gunners in one of the operations that's trying to save us. We were up in on Ho Chi Minh Trail, but it was Operation Taylor Common in January '69. That's when I got back, because, you know, that may not mean nothing. It's a Purple Heart with 1 star.
What does that mean?
That means I got wounded. Okay, Purple Heart is what you get when you get wounded.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you got 2 Purple Hearts, you get a Purple Heart with 1 star. If you got 3 Purple Hearts, you get the Purple Heart ribbon, then you'll have 2 stars. And, you know, it keeps on going. So, yeah, I got taken out twice, but when Operation Taylor Common, I came back in Vietnam, back in country the second time, up in the Hue San Mountains. We got up on there, Ho Chi Minh Trail, and we got caught in an ambush laying on the side of the mountain, and we had a machine gunner that was doing his best on the side of it, trying to focus the fire on a Viet Cong, an NVA, North Vietnamese Army, not the Viet Cong Army, that had a couple of 30 calibers just working us over. There was nowhere to hide. I mean, he did the best he can. Of course, when they saw the incoming fire, like, you know, they're the enemy, you know, but, you know, we're the enemy of them, you know, and they just trained their 30 cals on him and just took him out. So he did that's just one incident. He did his best to suppress the fire, to try to keep it off everybody else. But, you know, once you start unloading on them, you know, now you're the focus instead of just general. But I mean, I saw that happen many a time. But it's just whatever you have to do. I mean, especially in a firefight, you get caught in an ambush. Well, that's a different issue, you know.
Were there? Do you remember the day you left the service to go home for the first time?
Well, I only came home when I got out of the Marine Corps. And that was I don't remember the exact day. It could have been like September 24th, 1969. I mean, I'm just using the year's correct, the exact date. I don't remember the exact date, because when they were getting us out of the Marine Corps, if you were getting out at that time, we flew into El Toro Air Station, which is in Anaheim, California, same place that Disney Land is located. But that's where you flew into to get discharged. So I flew in there, and then, like I said, I caught a flight from San Diego back into Houston Intercontinental.
Were you like, what were your emotions? What were your emotions when you came back home?
Well, just, you know, glad that I got out alive, you know, not like the other 58,000 that did come out of Vietnam, and the thousands that were injured, you know, but just glad to be out. You know, there were some of them that back then that wanted to stay in, but back in '69, the war was still hot and heavy, but they had so many Marines rotating back to the States, and most of them were 1st Marine Division. The only 2 divisions that fought in Vietnam without attachment was 1st Marine Division out of Camp Pendleton, California, and 3rd Marine Division out of Okinawa. So they had so many Marines rotating back, they had no place to put us. You had the option of possibly going to the 2nd Marine Division over in Camp Lejeune, but that was something they didn't want to do. So they, unless you were diehard, wanted to stay in the Marine Corps, which I wanted to, but considering the circumstances of what went through with getting taken out twice, I'm not going to push my luck. So regardless whether you're in the Army or Marine Corps, I would say probably 90 or 95% of them rotating back, depending on how much time you had left, opted to get out, and that's what most of us back then, But it was, like I said, it was probably September '69 is when I remember flying back. Maybe September 24th. I don't remember the exact date.
So, I asked my buddy this question, but he's not like experienced in war and all that. What was like, if you get injured, right? What do they do with you? What do you?
Oh, me? Well, like I said, the first time, October 5th, '68. Unfortunately, like I said, I went to Marine Corps with 3 guys. The other guy, Gary Hornico, who lives down in maybe El Campo, I'm not sure. I hadn't seen him in probably 20 years. We were both assigned to the 1st Marine Division. Not only that, we were both assigned. I was at Hotel Company, 2nd Battalion, 5th Marine Regiment, 1st Marine Division. And both of us went down to the 5th Marines. At that time, the 5th Marines were located, this is how it's pronounced in Vietnamese, the An Hoa Combat Base. Well, the An Hoa Combat Base is located, only as you get a map of Vietnam out, it's 25 miles southwest of Da Nang. So we were both assigned and went down to An Hoa Combat Base, and we were both in the same company, both in the 1st platoon. And unfortunately, we were operating in a bad booby trap area. Booby traps all over the place. 2 days before that, before I got taken out, October 3rd, '68, a Marine in front of him tripped a booby trap. It depends how it's laid up, but normally could be anywhere from 2 to 7 second delay. So when the Marine tripped it in front of him, by the time he walked up, he was almost on top of it. He got tore up real bad. Got medevac to Da Nang, to the hospital, and he laid up. He's 100% disabled with the loss of the use of his left arm. He's got it, but he's been that way since October 3rd, '68. But got medevac to Da Nang just to save his life, and he got medevac to the States, and he laid up in the hospital a year. And 2 days later, October 5th, '68, I got hit by a booby trap and got hit shrapnel in both legs, side of my stomach, peppered my arm, piece of shrapnel sticking out there, peppered. And same thing, they called in a medevac chopper. I got medevac to Da Nang, stayed there probably only about maybe a week. And then they medevac, since the Navy takes care of the Marine Corps as far as medical, they medevac me out to Guam. And at the Naval Hospital in Guam, and I stayed out there October, November, December. And they said I was going to get a medical discharge, So, like I said, like I told the other group, before you were in the Marine Corps, before you went to Vietnam, you didn't fly directly from the States over there. You stopped in Okinawa, where the 3rd Marine Division is based out of, and your sea bag that you brought from stateside, that stays there, and you get an orientation, telling you, hey, you're going to be flying into Da Nang. You'll check in the 1st Marine Division rear. You may stay in the 1st Marine Division, or you may go up north by the DMZ, where the 3rd Marine Division operate out of. You'll be assigned when you get in there. So that's the way that works. But like I said, anyway, I was in Guam, so I go to catch a flight at Anderson Air Force Base, which is Guam, back to Okinawa, because I've got to stop back over there, because I thought I was told I was getting a medical discharge out of the Marine Corps. They lied. I can't believe it. They lied to me. So I stay over there like a week, and they post the orders on the corkboard, So and they post the orders, so I'm looking at the orders, thinking there's of course a whole bunch of Marines behind me looking at their orders. Am I reading that right? Back to Vietnam. So I fly back, catch a flight out of Okinawa back into Da Nang. Got in about January 2nd, '69. Check in 1st Marine Division rear. It says the 5th Marine Regiment still down at the An Hoa Combat Base. Yeah. You want to go back down there? I said, might as well. So I went back and joined them back, like I said, January '69. At that time, they were on Operation Taylor Common, which was up at the Quayside Mountains, which is up by like the Ho Chi Minh Trail and stuff, trying to root out, the trail which was active, like a super highway for the NVA and the Viet Cong and stuff like that. But and just got back with them and ran some operations and stuff. Like I said, a lot of booby trap areas. That's what took out a lot of us. But for firefights and any incoming mortars, artillery, and this stuff, the heavy 122 rockets, you just never know. The booby traps was the area we operate out was a bad area with booby traps.
What were the booby traps?
Huh?
What were the booby traps?
Booby traps are anything with a tripwire. It could be anything as simple as if you ever, very seldom did you get anything to drink like a soft drink or anything. But if you got a can of Coke or any kind of can, big can that you ate, say beans out of or anything like that, as soon as you got through using it, it needed to be stopped flat. Okay, so if not, one of the things is they would put the can over here and they would fix it, and they would. And even using our grenades or theirs, they'd fit a grenade in there, right? The handle has to fit in there, but right before it fit in there, they would put a pin, it'd fit in the can. Of course, it got a tripwire.
Yeah.
Going here to another fixed a piece of bamboo, and it's covered up with brush, and they take bamboo, a lot of bamboo in Vietnam. Obviously, they take bamboo and cut it in half, and they put it across the tripwire, and they'll put brush where you can't see it. They'd keep it off the ground, maybe. But they'd have to keep it off the ground about 4 foot, in a jungle. So you come across there, you catch a tripwire in there, you pull the grenade out of the can, the handle flies off.
And then you got to run.
Yeah, you dig punji stakes. They dig trenches in the ground like this here, enough to go down to your knee, and they would bamboo. Again, they use bamboo, and they would sharpen them with a knife, needle sharp, and they'd stick them in there. And they cover it with grass and stuff. A canvas and grass. You go through there, your foot goes through the bamboo. You got bamboo and stuff.
Oh, like
that's a punji trap.
Step on like fake grass?
Yeah, I mean you step in, you go down in there where you're gonna lose your balance. The weight of your body.
Yeah.
It's gonna go. The bamboo, sharp as a needle, it's gonna go through your foot. If that wasn't bad enough, they'll put a tripwire in there with a grenade. There's no limit to what they could come up with to kill you. Nothing whatsoever.
They'll do whatever it takes.
Then if there were some rounds that we used, or they used artillery rounds that didn't go off when we were bombing them, they would find those, and if it was a big artillery round stuff, it could take out 8 or 10 people. The same thing with a tripwire. They'll put the round there and fix it. And of course, it has a primer on the back, just like a rifle shell or anything like that. And you trip the tripwire with a spring, it hits it, blows up. There's just that, and swinging, like you see on some of the old movies. They could have clods of dirt, big clods of dirt, or something like that to that effect, with short bamboo sticking out on a swinging rope. When you trip a tripwire and come in, just take you out. There was no limit to what they could think of.
Yeah. So when you were enlisting or like that, did you know you were going to the Vietnam War?
Yeah, it was pretty much, like I said, 95%. You were going to Vietnam. If you got drafted in the Army, enlisted, like we joined the Marine Corps, or if you're in the Air Force, you don't know. Most time in the Air Force, you could be stationed at some of the air bases in Vietnam, which were somewhere protected, or a lot of Don Hubley over there sitting in the green shirt. He flew not the F-111, but the F-111 that's across from Farmers Park on display. That's what he flew. But he was an Air Force pilot, but he flew the same plane, not that exact one. But they were, most of them, they were stationed in air bases in Thailand and in Cambodia and stuff like that. Except for a few of them, you could be in Da Nang or Saigon, or Cam Ranh Bay down south. But the Marine Corps, we operated in I Corps mostly up in northern Vietnam. But like I said, out of the 3 of us, that enlisted in the Marine Corps. Two of us went to Vietnam, but the other guy, his name was Dennis Hines. He, of course, you have to have people doing stateside duty. So he stayed working at the Marine Corps logistic base in Albany, Georgia. He never went over to Vietnam. So it was a 90% chance you were going to go, but everybody couldn't go to Vietnam. You had to have stateside duty for logistics, administration purposes, you know, a lot of other functions. It's just a luck of the draw, really. And how good you did on your test.
Yeah. So you were in war. You were enlisted from 1968 to 1969.
Yeah, that's the Vietnam service. Yeah. Yeah,
So-
like
so
you said,
you
even
did
though I
more
went
than
over to
that.
Vietnam twice because I was laid up 3 months. I thought I was getting a medical discharge. They sent me back because I was still breathing.
So
That's just the service time. I didn't actually consider that one tour, even though I went over twice.
so after the Vietnam War. Yeah. So after the Vietnam War, like you were just done. You were done being in the Marines after the war.
Yeah, like I said, back then they were, depending on how much time you had left, I think if you had 2 years or less on your enlistment, they were offering you an early out. And at the time, I could have stayed in. I think I just fell in within that time period, but considering I got taken out twice, and all the other close calls with about at least 2, if not 3 snipers, a couple of misses on incoming mortars and stuff, and all the other close calls, getting caught in an ambush that I barely scraped out. If I would have stayed in, there was a pretty good chance I'd have went to Vietnam again, and that happened to a lot of the Army and Marine Corps when you had a 4-year enlistment. That what happened was back then, when you're in a war zone and all of a sudden you come back from your first tour, you come back for stateside duty, and all of us, anybody being in the jungle or rice paddies, your mentality of how you operate, and you come back to the United States for stateside duty with reveille at 5 o'clock in the morning, and you got to do this. And a lot of them guys that maybe earned some stripes, maybe they were a corporal or sergeant, or you know, E4, E5, couldn't put up with that and got busted and say, what the hell with this? Send me back to Vietnam, you know. And that back then it seemed like a good decision, but a lot of them went back, came back in a body bag, you know. So I already done got taken out twice, you know, we had a close call. I'm thinking, nah,
Don't want to risk
I
it.
believe I'm done.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what happened to probably regardless if you were in the Army or the Marine Corps, they had so many rotating back from Vietnam. There in a lot of places there weren't positions for them on stateside, like Camp Pendleton or Fort Hood or any of the Army bases, Fort Bliss out there in El Paso. There were just too many people coming back. They didn't have no place to put them. So their way to get out of that just offer you an early out, or unless you know, they put a big carrot, or unless you had a specialty that they needed or something.
How did the relationship when you came home? How did the relationship when you came home?
Oh, coming home? Well, like I said, I came home. You know, I'm probably 21, maybe I'm 69. No, I'm about 20 years old. You know, I don't have any kind of experience to bring back like the other group asked me, you know, did you have any experience to come back to help you get a job or anything? No, I'm over there trying to stay alive and help people. That's what you're trained to do. As simple as that. You know, you're trying to help the Vietnamese government have a democracy and live free. But that, you know, we turned it over. I'm getting off the subject. We turned it over to the South Vietnamese to take care of their country. But coming back, you know, I don't have any job. I don't have any experience. You know, so we tried to get some jobs going to Houston and stuff. Well, what kind of experience you got? I have nothing. You know, I have no experience. I have no training. I have nothing. So you just got to, in Brennan, you got to just ask around, you know, little construction companies or anything. You know, you need any help for anything, just a laborer. You know, that's all you could do. So I mean, I got a couple of jobs, and just to make ends meet, and I had to stay with my parents. I didn't have no way to buy a house. I think finally, maybe 1970. I bought a 58 Ford from a local wrecking yard for $400 just to have something to drive. My parents didn't have no money. They couldn't buy me a car. And I stayed with them for, man, I don't know, maybe I stayed with them for about a year. Year, maybe more than that. But, you know, I had to finally get out somewhere and buy something. I think I finally, trying to think where I moved to, but, you know, I finally moved out, you know, and got a job. But that's just the way it was back then, you know. But there wasn't a whole bunch of job opportunities to Brenham. You know, some of the industrial places like Bluebell Ice Cream, which wasn't over here. It's just that little Bluebell plant on Chapel Hill, the little creamery, you know, over there on South Chapel Hill by the fire station. Maybe City Mattress. I didn't go in there. I think I just went to work for like a local construction company, just doing labor work, you know, like carrying sheetrock and stuff on jobs inside the building, just labor work.
Yeah. But how were like your relationships with your friends, family, and like the people you served with? Did any of that change when you?
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, the parents and kinfolks, yeah, they're glad to see you. You come back and made it, and I tried to, you know, contact some of the classmates and stuff. Visit with them and stuff, but outside that, you really didn't promote yourself. It was pretty obvious because I always kept high tie like the Marine Corps versus, you know, some of them had longer hair and stuff like that. So you were kind of, I didn't have to have something saying a cap or anything. I was a Vietnam veteran or anything like that. I didn't really wear nothing back then. But yeah, it wasn't really too much people other than your family that were glad to see you made it home. The rest of them could care less, you know, because that's just the way it was back then. The only thing I did, probably after being home 3 or 4 days, getting situated, you know, visiting with some kinfolks and stuff, the other two groups of friends, like you got friends you run around with, it could be him, it could be some other people. I went to the Catholic Calvary Cemetery over there by Glenn College because another friend of mine that we ran around together, he was 1 year older, he went to Hillman, and the otother, it was Larry Wessinger from Brenham and Larry Andres.
About 5 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
They went to the Marine Corps too a year before us. Unfortunately, they were in the 3rd Marine Division up north, real bad area, but Larry Wessinger, I think on I don't know, maybe February 19th or March 19th. Larry Wessinger, a sniper, got him, took him out. So after being here for about 3 or 4 days, I went out to the Catholic cemetery where he's buried out there, you know, just pay my respects to him. I tried to come back for the funeral when I was in Vietnam, but they wouldn't let me come back from Vietnam. They wouldn't do that. But the other guy, like I said, Dennis Hines, one of us that went in there, he was based over in Albany, Georgia, at the Marine Logistic Base. They came over they let him be a pallbearer. He wore his dress blues over here, but they tried to get me back. They wouldn't let me come in, you know. But that was one of the things I wanted to take care of within a week while I came back, you know. But,
well, what are all these like ranks? Like, what do they mean?
Actually, for me only being in the Marine Corps, 3-year enlistment, less than that. So I'm just, like I said, I'm a corporal, which for making a corporal in the Marine Corps within 2 years is pretty damn good. Of course, over there, rank was easy, and the chances you living to do anything with it were pretty slim. And like I said, the Marine Corps, I was a point man, you know, and walking in the jungle, I was the first man, you know, leading the people. You know, so I walk point, and like I said, I don't wear all my other ribbons and stuff. I just wear that Purple Heart ribbon with the Gold Star, which 2 Purple Hearts, because like I said, I got taken out on April 16th, '69, during a night ambush about 10:30 at night.
What does the second one mean?
Well, that's just the 5th Marine Regiment. Okay. That's just a regiment pin. That's all that is. I was with 2-5. 2-5. It's just an abbreviation for 2nd Battalion, 5th Marine Regiment.
Did you ever get the jacket with when you put the medals on it?
Yeah, I got a
bomber jacket.
What you call that? A jacket, you know, sleeveless jacket, a leather jacket. Then I've got rocker arms and stuff, and as far as ribbon stuff, I got like a little mini ribbon set. I don't have big ribbons, you know, I'll put on that, but I only wear that like Memorial Day or Veterans Day. That's about the only 2 times I wear it. Or if would be a parade or something like that, or when sometimes they invite us to Washington County Fair, have a parade, you know, in September for Washington County Fair. Sometimes they invite us to ride on a float and stuff, but that's usually the only time we'll wear that stuff.
Do you remember the first time someone thanked
Huh?
you for your service? Do you remember the first time someone thanked you for your service?
Boy, man, I don't know. If it was, it had to be. Things were pretty rough until about the mid '80s. It could have been like in the mid '80s, except for your family members, you know, when you come back. But before then, it really wasn't nothing that they acknowledged you about or anything. The people could just care less. You know, it wasn't a popular war. A lot of protesters, a lot of stuff like that. So it could have been in the mid '80s, the best I can remember. I know they had a welcome home parade maybe in '86 down in Houston for Vietnam veterans, and it was attended by a lot of people, a lot of veterans. You know, it could have been 10,000. And actually, I don't know if that was Main Street coming out of downtown to Herman Park, but there were literally tens of thousands of people, you know, welcoming us home. That was a big event for us.
If given the opportunity, would you serve in the military again?
Yes, I would. I tried, after 9/11, I tried to go to recruit and go back in, but they said you're too old.
Really?
They said you were too old?
Well, when 9/11 happened, I tried to go back in, but they said I was too old. Because, you know, it's just the way it was, but that's 9/11, you know. Yeah, it didn't hurt, I tried.
Yeah. It never hurts to ask, right?
Yeah.
So we are needing to go ahead and wrap up so they can get to their next class. But would y'all thank Mr. Blue for his time?
Okay,
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
it. Y'all know, got a step grandkid, one of them, got Josiah Ferguson, senior basketball player.
Yeah, I got him next period.
And then Elijah Ferguson. Yeah.
Oh, that's your.
Okay.
Y'all are related?
You what?
Y'all are related?
Yeah.
Yeah, me and
step
Josiah.
grandkid. Yeah. Yeah. Josiah's graduating this year.
Yeah.
Elijah. No, you know what? Elijah's. I think he's a sophomore.
Yeah, I'm good friends with both of them.
Yeah,
Okay.
me too. Well,
Thank you very much
Yeah,
for.
you just run into Elijah and tell him there's a guy that you met today